Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jesse the Planets. Thank you for tuning in today. And I'm excited. We're on the old river road. Franklin Delano Roosevelt drove down this road back in the 30s, and they built the Mississippi River levee. And we're going to be taken to a wonderful plantation entitled Destrehan Plantation. And our ministry is in Destrehan. So I'll be back in just a moment as we go down the old river road by the Mississippi River. We're here at Destrehan Plantation, and we got a wonderful lady here named Susan. Susan, come. Now, look how beautiful this lady is. Now, all these years ago, this is what ladies, how they dress and how they look. Susan, how you doing today?
Fine, sir. How
Thank
are you?
Oh, doing fine. Listen, you come to the South, and you come to, especially to our church and the different things, you come to New Orleans, you need to come to Destrehan Plantation. It's wonderful. They do wonderful tours, and it's really beautiful. It's like going back in time. So let's go over to the sign, and we're going to talk about what the Lord has said to talk about today. So come on with me. Hi, I'm Jesse Duplantis. Pleased to meet you. Hello. Where y'all from? Germany. Oh.
We love it to be here.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. It gets hot, but it's Africa hot. Well, it's a pleasure meeting you guys. This is Destrehan Manor House. This was the Deep South. It was not easy. The thing bad about our history in the Deep South was slavery, and most of the slaves built this house. But Jesus said, whom the Son is set free is free indeed. I want to ask you today, are you free today? Are you free in Christ? Free in every area of your life. Let me tell you something. God will do whatever you can believe. If you'll understand that God's word is true. But what I love about the black people of America and the black people of the world, let me tell you something. The slaves were treated really bad. But what happened was they never blamed God. Isn't that amazing? They sang Amazing Grace. Back in the South, when they were lynched and they were burned, you know what? They never blamed God. The grandparents, the parents, they would say, this is nothing about God. God doesn't do this to people. So I want to say this today. Jesus has set you free from sin, sickness, disease, and poverty. So never make an excuse for the blessings of God. Never make an excuse for the healing of God. Because Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Thank God man has changed. It went from being mean. There's no longer slaves here now. Isn't that something? Now, think about that. Because you see, man said we'll not have that. Why? Because somebody read the Bible. Jesus had in his mind that everyone would be free. And he did when he died on that cross. So I just want you to think about that for a day. Now, several hundred years ago, Jean Noel Destrehan stood right here. Well, guess what? 2,000 years ago, Jesus had you on his mind when he was hanging on that cross to set you free. Hallelujah. So if you don't have time to get depressed, why? Because whom the Son is set free is free indeed. We're back on the river road now. We're going north toward Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We want to take you to one of the greatest engineering feats by the Army Corps of Engineers. It's called the Bonnie Carey Spillway. And let me give you an idea what this is. A lot of time, you know, when it freezes in the winter, the lakes and the waters freeze up north, and all of a sudden when that water starts melting, it goes into the Mississippi, and they got to take the pressure off this levee. What they do, they open up the locks. And it's amazing, the thousands and thousands of gallons of water. It takes the pressure off of the Mississippi. So everybody around here, if we didn't have that Bonnie Carey Spillway or that, it would be flooded during a hurricane. This levee would never been breached, even during Hurricane Katrina. And I want to tell you something, you can't stop the Mississippi. The Mississippi is a mighty river, but it takes off, it just takes off, puts it out into Lake Pontchartrain, then goes out into the Gulf. And you might want to see these two men down there. If you're looking down there, they're crawfishing. My God. I want to tell you something. You'll never starve to death in South Louisiana, man. We know how to eat. And that's some of the best crawfish you'll ever see. All these are locks. They open this up. I've seen the Mississippi River be as high as the top of that lock. And the reason why I wanted to bring you here today, this is all happening in South Louisiana. You know, there's times that we get under pressure. There's times Satan puts us under a lot of stress. But let me tell you something about Jesus Christ. He's got some spiritual locks inside of you called the Holy Ghost. And all you got to do is open up and let the power of God begin to flow, and all the stress will just go just like the Mississippi River water. Now imagine the water being as high as this levee is right here. I mean, right here, that water would be right there. But when you open those locks, it's one of the most amazing things you've ever seen. Now what happens is they closed the locks not too long ago, and there's still water out there, so that people are crawfishing and doing all that kind of stuff so they can feed their families. Because I want to get a shot of all these tankers and things here in the Mississippi River. I want you to see this here. It's amazing how much economy comes down the Mississippi River. And this is it right here. When I was a kid, I used to go swimming in there. Now you got to watch yourself. If you get too far out there, those eddies will get you. And my God, they'll sink you down. And I mean, it will pull you down, you'll drown. It's over a mile wide right here. But all these big, huge tankers, see them, they're full of oil. It's coming into the port of New Orleans, going up the river and going down the river. It's one of the most amazing things. I said that to say this. You see, that is nothing but the blessings for the United States of America of its economy. Well, you know what? God's got spiritual tankers. God want to bless you in the city, in the field, going in and going out. So in other words, he has the blessing that's on the river, and if the devil tries to put you under stress, he has the locks over here to take the stress off of you. Think about that. Now what happens is, if you, even in the midst of the stress, when we're having problems and all that water is rushing, literally that becomes just a lake, goes into Lake Pontchartrain. And what happens is it cleans everything you can see. Right now it's a little muddy, and it turns everything with the prettiest green you ever saw in your life, because all the nutrients are coming from the Mississippi River, are going into the ground. The trees begin to grow, and the crabs and all kind of different things of that nature. At first they don't know how to handle all this fresh water, but then all of a sudden they begin to grow, and you eat it when you go to restaurants. So this is one of the greatest engineering feats that's ever been done here by the Army Corps of Engineers. It's a blessing. So let me say it again. You may be under stress right now. Maybe cancer's coming against you. My Lord, all you got to do is open up the locks and let the stress out, because Jesus said, by his stripes you were healed. Maybe you're financially distraught. Open up the lock spiritually and let the stress out. My God, because on this side is all the blessings, and the tankers and all the different, they're all waiting for you to receive what God has for you, spiritually speaking. Just like people are waiting to unload these things so people can buy gasoline, do everything you can think of. I mean, everything is happening right here. And I mean, it's an amazing economy. And one of the biggest rivers in the continental United States is the Mississippi River. Now watch this, and I want to say that you people say, why is it so muddy? That's one of the best things that's ever happened to us. That mud is the best mud. That's coming all the way from Minnesota. And it comes down, and it's some of the best silt you've ever seen. You can build houses on that stuff. And I want to tell you something. For years, they used to dig all this stuff out. And it was because we have to have pilings here in South Louisiana when we build a house. And when they open up that, now watch it, this was several years ago, they hadn't opened up for maybe 10, 15 years. Within a matter of a week, all the dirt that was taken out all those years was put back just like that. See, why? Because the replenishing of what's going on. God said, be fruitful, always multiply, always increasing, multiply, always, and replenish it. And that's what the Mississippi River does. So I thought maybe you would enjoy this today. And I want you to think about this in your mind now. When Satan comes against you, greater is he who's in you than he is in the world. This is what I do a lot of times when I'm not preaching. I just get in my car on my motorcycle and I ride the levee. And I go down the river road, and I see all the wonderful things that God has created. And I realize there is no shortage of money. You know how I know that? Look at them tankers. Because I want to tell you something. That is blessings in them tankers everywhere. Food, energy, everything you can think of. It is happening. Think about that today. And maybe when you burned a gallon of gas, you might be in Georgia. Most of the gas that people burn in Atlanta comes from right here. We have big refineries that's going on. It's a place where the blessings are flowing. So I just want to show it. Remember this, God's blessings are always flowing. You just got to get there just like I am today and say, you know what? It don't make no difference. If the pressure's up, I open up the locks, I take the pressure off. If I'm hungry, I go straight to all that blessing out there and say, I'm blessed in the city, blessed in the field, blessed going in, blessed going out. Now, do you understand why I believe in prosperity? I see it every day. Coming up the river, going down the river. And remember, that Jesus will take the pressure off and he'll put the blessing on. I'm walking into a wonderful restaurant, one of my most favorite restaurants called Restaurante Filippo, and I want you to meet Chef Philip. You're going to be blessed, and we're going to go upstairs and talk about a wonderful miracle that happened in their life and some of the finest food. So let's go in there right now. And we have the chef with us today, Chef Philip. How you doing, my man? I'm going to shake your hand once again. I shook it a while ago. Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever come to the city of New Orleans, and you should, you need to go to Restaurante Filippo. Look at some of this food. This man is a fine, fine cook. But what's so amazing about this man, he became my friend many years ago. So Philip, if you don't mind talking, tell me what happened to your wonderful daughter.
My wife was 20 weeks pregnant, and we go for an ultrasound. In the process, we find out that my daughter was diagnosed with spina bifida. I did not know what spina bifida was. My wife is a clinician, and she knew immediately, and we got the diagnosis.
Now, this spina bifida is a terrible, terrible diagnosis. And they say, you know, you got problems all the days of your life. But I want to tell you something. The Lord told me something really special, and I've told you this many times, that the Lord said, this is a very special child. So I realized that Satan had attacked this child in the womb. That's why I don't like the devil, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care if you're Catholic or Protestant, Jewish, whatever. Nobody should like the devil, you see, because he don't care if he kills a baby, whether they're out of the womb or in the womb.
Of course, it was a very a large pill to swallow.
Right, I guess so.
Very upsetting because of the unknown. Long story short, we have a mutual friend. Mm-hmm. I called our friend and I said, please call Jesse and Kathy.
Right.
And we need to start praying. We're going to have a baby with problems.
Right.
And that evening, immediately as we returned back to the restaurant, there was Jesse and Kathy at the door, which is something that we will never forget. We went upstairs in the private dining room and we held hands, and Jesse laid his hands on my wife and began to pray. And what was such a miracle more than anything is that Mary had never felt the baby move. Yeah. And at that moment, we felt our daughter, the baby in utero, move. We just believed in God, and we just believed in Jesus, that he was always going to be on our side. And that's what Jesse said to me right from the start. Philip, you're not alone. He's walking with you. She learns just like any other typical child. She runs, she walks, she's a beautiful young lady.
And I'll say one more thing. I'll never forget, I was at your house, and all of a sudden she was crawling, and then she began to get up. Oh, and when y'all told that to the doctor, what did the doctor say? I wanted to say that when you said she's walking.
One evening it was a Friday night, and it was a very busy night in the restaurant, and I noticed at one point that the doctor that's in the ICU unit was in the dining room. I went over immediately and started talking to him. We hugged each other. We hadn't seen each other in several years. And I told him that she was walking and she was running, and he could not believe it. And the man began to cry. My wife was just here with the children, had left the restaurant.
The doctor began to cry?
He began to cry.
My Lord.
I said, please don't leave. He said he would not leave. I had my wife come back to the restaurant with the 3 girls, and he just could not believe it, astounded at the results.
You see, he could not believe it, but you could believe it. Mary could believe it. My wife, Kathy, could believe it. Jesse, the plants, could believe it. But above all, God believed it.
That's right.
And God caused the miracle. So you need one today? All you got to do is talk to the same God that these people talk. Whether you're Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, God is listening.
You know, right from the start with our faith, and we continue to believe in Jesus Christ.
That's what it's about.
You know, I tell her every day, you can do anything you want to do. You might do it a little bit differently, but you can achieve it.
See, they decided, they didn't deny what the doctor said. You know, we don't deny doctors' reports. Exactly. That's what they do.
That's right.
Denied its right to exist. And I want to, if you saw her today, first, she's a beautiful girl, and I'm praying for you because I know the boys are starting to see too. You know?
That's right.
But the Lord just did a phenomenal miracle in her life. And it was such a blessing of the Lord. I mean, and all we had to do was pray. All we had to do was just simply believe. Little did I realize that one of the best restaurants in New Orleans, and I say that here today, that God would place us together as good friends. God would do a wonderful healing in his daughter's life. And she's such a blessing. And I really believe this, ladies and gentlemen, that this is not the end result. She'll be able to do whatever she wants, when she wants, where she wants, and how she wants, simply because this couple decided to believe by faith. And I'm saying this today to you. Maybe you have a child and child's been attacked. And you think, well, why did God allow that? God didn't allow that. Satan comes to kill, steal, and destroy. But Jesus came to give life. If you'll find someone that'll believe God with you, think about that. You find a Bible-believing church. Guess what? I don't care what it is. God can fix that, turn that around, and your child can have a wonderful life just like Chef Philip's child. Now, so I want you to think about that. So, if you ever come to the city of New Orleans, you come to Restaurante Filippo. Did I say it right?
Perfectly.
My favorite food is spaghetti and meatballs. This is the best you'll ever eat. This oyster oregano, I want to talk about this. There are people that don't eat oysters going to eat this. The other night, my wife came and ordered a pork chop. We hardly ever eat pork chop. We didn't realize how good it was. It was wonderful. Is that shrimp scampi?
The shrimp scampi.
My Lord. And right here, this is my favorite. They know when I come in that I always order this, and that's a Caesar salad with oysters. And I usually tell that wonderful waitress, said, just give me one of these croutons. I could eat the whole bag. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I want to thank you for allowing us to come to your restaurant.
Absolutely.
And I mean that sincerely. Suggested the Planners from New Orleans said, thank you for watching today. And once again, Restaurante Filippo. Eat the food. It's wonderful. You'll be blessed. It's like going to heaven. I really think your food's going to go to heaven if Jesus comes.
Thank you, Jesse.
So if you see this stuff start rising up there, and we're going to eat it in heaven. You have a wonderful day. God bless you. Bye-bye.
This media is copyrighted by Jesse Duplantis Ministries for the private use of our audience. Any other use of this media or of any pictures or accounts without Jesse Duplantis Ministries' consent is strictly prohibited.